Hello and a very warm welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today, which features the 3 finalists for our Best Publisher UX Award 2020. So our 3 finalists are Bloomsbury, Cambridge University Press and Emerald. I'm Jane Charlton, Marketing Manager at Open Athens, and in a minute I'll introduce the webinar and our 3 presenters. But first I just want to go through a few housekeeping things with you. So first of all, just to let you know that we are recording the webinar today and we'll send out the recording link with an email after the webinar. If you'd like to post any speaker questions, please do that using the Q&A box. And if you can indicate which speaker your question is for, that would be fabulous. And then finally, if you have any audio or video problems, please can you post them in the chat. So I'll move on to the next. So that's the housekeeping out the way. I just want to say a little bit about the award itself. So our new award was set up to highlight those publishers that have put users at the heart of their service design. And this is with the simple aim of giving users easy access to content. The award builds on our ongoing commitment to drive forward innovation in the information industry and to make access to knowledge as easy as possible for end users. Our award also supports the underlying principles of the NICE approved RA21 recommended practices for improved access to institutionally provided resources. We plan to run the award next year and would especially like any publishers that have implemented the RA21 recommended practices to apply for the award. And now, without further ado, let me introduce you to our first speaker, Tim Inman, Product Manager at Bloomsbury Publishing. Over to you.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Jane. Let me just get my PowerPoint up. Great. So as Jane said, I'm Tim. I'm a Product Manager at Bloomsbury Publishing. I'm going to be talking to you about our Bloomsbury Publishing platform and telling you the story of how we developed and designed it in response to the need of our users. So the first thing to say about the platform is that it's not in fact a single site. Instead, it is a custom-built solution that supports 20 different content types and a set of highly flexible and configurable options. This allows us to quickly and cost-effectively create products which can be customized with the content, information, architecture, and tools that are appropriate for subject specialists in a wide range of disciplines. This is perhaps best illustrated through numbers. So 2, that's the number of years since we launched the first products on the site. In that time, we've launched 14 products in total. We now support 20 different content types. And over the last 2 years, we've grown to have over 200 subscribing institutions in around 30 countries globally. So a question that you might have in response to that is, Bloomsbury as an academic publisher is a specialist in the humanities and social sciences and the visual and performing arts. So why do we have so many sites? Why have we decided to go down the route? And the answer for that is that within those fields, the breadth, depth and variety of our output is unparalleled. So on the left here, you can see a selection of the subjects covered by sites on our platform. And it's worth pointing out that within those disciplines, there are user groups that have distinct pain points, needs and behaviors. And in the right, you can see different user groups that are catered for on at least one of the sites on our platform. Now, the fact that we are ourselves specialists means that we can truly work to understand our users and focus on the distinctive needs. And it's for this reason that it's been essential from the very start of the platform's creation that these groups' voices were put at the heart of the development process and to ensure that we're providing for them effectively. So how have we done that? Well, all our online resources start with the creation of a product-specific use case and problem statement. These are informed by user research and testing, which typically consists of one-to-one interviews, focus groups, surveys with librarians and academics, and usage data from existing sites. These help us to identify what features and content types need to be included on our site and where further development is required. And just to highlight that this work doesn't stop at launch, and we continue to track usage data and hold one-to-one interviews with users and also conduct win-loss analysis with librarians to understand what went into their decision to, or indeed not to, subscribe to a product. I'm now going to talk about how we use that information to respond to our user needs and how we've done that on the site. I'm going to structure that around 3 main topics: content types, search and browse, and design and visual elements. So content types first. As mentioned at the start, we have 20 different content types available on the site, a selection of which I'm displaying here. Each of these was created through an iterative process involving collaboration between the internal Bloomsbury team and our external developers. The team set out the initial requirements for each content type in consultation with academics, which were then further refined through the creation of sample content and user acceptance testing. Finally, interactive wireframes were created and tested in one-to-one sessions with users in the US and UK. And just to highlight that any site can hold any combination of these different content types, so we can have truly tailored solutions for users. Next up, search and browse. So we've got the content there. How do we aid users to find it? Well, our research consistently reveals that users prefer searching for content on our site to finding it by any other method, such as browse. And analytics reporting suggests it's around 6 times, search is around 6 times more popular than any alternative route. And actually, this is also something that comes up in user interviews. So I was interviewing someone for our design library site a couple of weeks ago who described her visits to the site as purpose-driven ventures, which I thought was a kind of brilliant and pithy kind of summation of what most of our users are doing when they come to the site. And so for this reason, the development of search has been a central focus when the platform was built and continues to be a massive priority for us. And this has led to the development of features such as smart predictive search, carefully designed search relevance rankings, and related content panels that use custom algorithms for each product. And you'll see that these custom related content fields are also great in facilitating discovery and connection between different content types. So here we have a visual content type, but it's connected to text content here, which brings me nicely onto the next topic, which is design and visual elements. So one of the things that we have learned is that our users often need a highly visual approach in their research and teaching, which has made these elements a really high priority for our audience. As a result, all our sites put emphasis on providing visually rich, immersive materials, coupled with a fresh interface and fully mobile responsive layouts throughout. So an example here would be Bloomsbury Medieval Studies, which we launched back in October. So medieval studies, perhaps not a discipline you'd consider to be typically visually rich, but actually when we were doing our initial scoping work, we consistently were hearing that archival content and images were rated as the most valuable content by librarians and academics. Here's an example of some of the archival content we have on the site. So moving on, I'm going to look at a specific use case or a specific case now. Sorry about that. Just going to share my browser. This is our Bloomsbury Fashion Video Archive site. This is a database of over 1,500 catwalk shows from the last 40 years, which is aimed at students and researchers in fashion history, fashion design, cultural history, and cultural studies. I'm just going to generate a switch here for bias cut, which is a technique used in dress design. Now, during the discovery phase for this product, we kept hearing from users that currently they weren't actually using resources from traditional publishers to find their materials at all. And in fact, where they were going was YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, and Vimeo. And this presents a kind of interesting challenge because it means that they're often working with incomplete shows, if they can find them at all, which are scattered across the internet and have either incorrect or sparse metadata. So our solution when building the product was to do 2 main things. One was to make sure that searching for and finding shows was as straightforward as possible for users, and for users who typically don't work with academic sites. And second was to ensure that we were providing rigorous academic surrounding content materials to provide context to the footage that's lacking elsewhere. So you'll see that I've just searched for a site here. And the reason I search for bias cut is that bias cut is actually a technique in dressmaking where fabric is cut in the diagonal grain, not with the weave. And the fact that you can use search and you'll get a video is really important. It means that users can use technical fashion terminology to find content. And this has been made possible because each of the videos in the archive has been indexed and had metadata created by subject experts. So here you'll see for each show we have a description and then we have metadata down the side. Press play. The other thing you'll see as I press play is that we have annotations of different looks which will come up on screen. These show up in approximately 10-second sections, which include the garment, color, and the model's names where they're available. Again, these are written by subject experts, and the purpose of this is three main things. Firstly, they're a really important pedagogical tool. It teaches students how to describe images using the correct technical terminology, which is really important, especially for early stage students. And this was a noted pain point for instructors during the initial scoping phase. The second is that these transcripts are compatible with text-to-speech readers, which really enhances the accessibility of the site. And finally, you'll see we have a search transcript option here. If I type in bias cut again, you'll see that it shows each instance where that appears in the video. So if I click here, it will jump me to that point in the video, which means that video content is fully text searchable. Now, if I'm a user who's come to this video, I can save it here. Or if I'm interested, for example, in bias cuts and I just want to come back to that option, then I also have the option to clip. So if I do this and generate URL, then that clip will appear up here in my content section. Finally, just to finish off, as mentioned, we also have the related content algorithms at play here. So it will show me related videos and then also related text content. So again, this is specially commissioned content by subject experts that provides all the additional materials that would be missing elsewhere. Okay, so to finish up, I'm just going to show how the value and impact of this approach has had. So the first thing to say that is in the 2 years since launch, the product has received the products on the site have received consistent good reviews, often highlighting the user-friendly interface. As I mentioned at the top, we also now have some 30 subscribers across the world, some 200 plus subscribers across the world, across 30 different countries. And about half of those subscribers subscribe to at least one product on the platform. And finally, we've also been lucky to garner some really great awards. And just here, I'll like to highlight for your attention the AAP, our Hawkins Award. This is often identified as the top award in scholarly publishing. And the Arcadian Library Online, which won this, was actually quite groundbreaking in that it was the first digital-first resource to win that award. So that's everything from me. I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you very much, Tim. So the first question is, can users get links out to related material housed elsewhere?
Yes, so that's a great question. So we have in the bibliographies, those links link out to library catalogues. And then, so the related content, those modules are exclusively to content within products. Then within our bibliographies and further reading sections, we include lots of links to elsewhere on the internet, and those will often connect up with library catalogues.
Fantastic. And can you say a bit about future plans for the product? What you're planning to do in the near future? Yeah,
sure. So a lot of the work we're doing at the moment is around accessibility. So although we aim for level AA of web content accessibility across the site, we've got a couple of areas we're trying to improve on. So one of those is adding pause on our dynamic carousel homepage feature, which we use on a couple of sites. And the other is improving the accessibility of our interactive features. So, for example, our timelines and world maps, we need to improve their ability to be navigated by keyboard. The other thing which we've just introduced is we call them custom browse pages. Basically what this means is that we can really quickly create curated editorial content to kind of go alongside the content that's indexed within our resources. And this is great at providing a kind of alternative route in. So we know that kind of search is the main way that users find content, but say if you're a new user and you maybe not too sure what you're looking for, the kind of thematic browse pages will introduce a theme. So for example, on our philosophy product, we're going to be introducing one on Islamic thought and one of women in the history of philosophy. And these will provide a kind of jumping off point for users to find those kind of topics within the resources.
That sounds really interesting. Thank you, Tim. So if we can, I don't think there were any more questions for, oh, hang on a second. One more question. You showed some very impressive awards and quotes about the service. Could you also talk about the user research you've done to validate the site and measure impact?
Yeah, sure. That's a really good question. So like I said, the kind of post-launch, the three main things we do is one, we track with usage data. So each month we kind of share a dashboard which tracks kind of various different metrics for each site. I guess kind of perhaps more to kind of get a kind of feel of actually how users kind of are responding to the site. We have a program of one-to-one user interviews. So we set those up, and those are sessions where we would do kind of task-based interviews with users. So we'd ask them to run through the kind of typical research task they'd be looking to complete on one of our sites. And we kind of either go through that with them in person or via screen share, and then just kind of follow up with some questions to kind of understand why they kind of approached their accessing the site in the way they did. And then the final thing is that we are kind of in conversation with librarians all the time. And like I mentioned, one of the things we do is each time a librarian has trialed a site, we do win-loss interviews with them. So if they've decided to subscribe to the site, then that's great. We talk to them about that, but kind of almost more useful is when they haven't decided to subscribe. And then we have a kind of long in-depth talk about, you know, why that was, what we could be doing to improve our services.
Thank you, Tim. That's fantastic. So if we can now move on to Alex Evans, who's lead product owner at Cambridge University Press. Over to you, Alex.
So sorry about that, I just had to unmute myself there. So I'm Alex Evans, I'm the lead product owner for Cambridge University Press, for Cambridge Core. So I'm going to start off with a very brief introduction video, which I will just let play for a minute, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about what we've done so far. you probably weren't expecting quite such a cinematic entrance there, but I wanted to share that little parody of the Star Wars entrance scene. And we've obviously got to thank Lucasfilm and John Williams for the music as well. But let me talk to you a little bit about the landscape before Cambridge Core, before we go into how we built Cambridge Core. So we had two major platforms, Cambridge Books Online and Cambridge Journals Online, and a variety of different other content hosting platforms, things like Cambridge Companions, Cambridge Histories. And it became very apparent to us very quickly that users didn't want to go to multiple sites. They didn't want to experience different user journeys. So we conceived the idea of Cambridge Core. So Cambridge Core in a timeline, back in 2014, we started off with some market research. And across the next couple of years, we did various user feedback on designs, one-to-one librarian testing, up until the point in which we deployed Cambridge Core in September 2016. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we did to get there, but also what we've been doing since to maintain a customer focus for our platform. So to start off with, we did a survey, global survey back in 2014 with over 9,000 respondents. It was a 50-question survey, so it was amazing to get that sort of level of response. We also did 50 face-to-face interviews with customers all over the world. That's external customers. And we also did some internal interviews as well to understand what there was as an expectation from the business. And what this really led us to do was it led us to generate 4 key personas: Rachel the researcher, Lynn the librarian, Antonio the author, and Patrick the publishing partner. And what we really wanted to do with these personas is understand the context of what each of them were doing, the motivation they had for doing that thing, and then the behaviors that they had that supported them doing that. It also helped us to personalize the personas in the company as well. So when we had conversations with stakeholders, it would become, well, would Rachel do this, or would Lynn need that? So moving on from that, it allowed us to really set up a set of UX principles. And the ones I really want to call out here is that we quickly identified that Rachel, the researcher, was our priority user. She was the one that was coming to our platform on a day-to-day basis. We wanted to make sure that the navigation needs for her were recoverable at any point. So if she got lost in her journey, she could come back. But more so than that, we wanted to make sure that the next available action was as easily identifiable as possible, and that the experience should be consistent regardless of the content type that she's on. So the whole journey would always feel familiar to her. So then we deployed Cambridge Core, as I said, in September 2016, and it looked a little bit like this. So we transitioned from putting a brand new product live and into the market, and we had to move into a more of a business as usual sort of model. So how are we going to maintain the customer experience? How are we going to make sure that we kept in touch with them? So we did multiple things over the first year. But one of the key things was for our first birthday, we organized a race on Cambridge Core. We asked users to come to our platform and complete 5 tasks, testing our discoverability, our search function, their ability to navigate within the content, and also iconography throughout the site. We got people to complete these 5 tasks, and we had over 1,000 participants, and over 200 people completed it all successfully. So an example of one of these tasks was find the book, Turing's Imitation Game, and view the metrics page. And you can actually see one of our participants trying to do it in the video above. We had 42% of users that did this task, complete it successfully, 39% failed, and 19% abandoned the task before they carried on with the rest of the race. So what did we learn here? Well, we learned there was 3 main key pain points for users. On our homepage, when they went to click the search, they were actually clicking on browse subjects rather than triggering the search itself. The 2 actions weren't distinct enough from one another. They also had difficulty navigating to books from search results pages, and difficulty finding the tab once they were there. So we immediately set about putting into place some improvements. Clarify the difference between search and browse subject, include book cover in search results, make all links blue so they'd easily be seen as clickable links, and make content type labels for alternative color. So above is a quick example of how the homepage used to look, where browse subject was in line with search. We've now dropped it below the search bar to make the 2 actions very distinct, so people don't make the same mistake of clicking that when going to do a search. Moving on to year 2, so this is 2018 now, we set ourselves 2 tasks. The first was challenge ourselves to solve a problem within the market, and the other was to try something we call hypothesis-based development. So the first, we identified a need in the market is that researchers wanted to share content with their peers. but their peers didn't always have access to the same content that they had access to. So in those cases, they'd download a PDF and they'd go away and they'd either email it across or upload it to sites such as ResearchGate. And what we wanted to do was drive the discoverability within our platform so they could find even more content. So what we did is we came up with the concept that if you have access to an article, you can share that article with somebody that doesn't have access to it. It's a simple link that you just email through, and on average, those links that are generated at the moment are viewed 23 times, which just shows that we are solving a real need there. In terms of relatedness, we did feature trials. So we did our hypothesis-based development, and our hypothesis was, we believe that by implementing relatedness on Cambridge Core, we can assist users' exploration of content by providing links to related themes and concepts. This will lead to an increase in user engagement, dwell time, PDF, and HTML downloads, because users will be more likely to find content relevant to them. So we ran 2 trials in parallel, spanning multiple content types, chapters, and articles, collecting data on page views, number of clicks from the content page, and we tried to gain a high-level understanding on if those clicks actually generated usage beyond the first article. And I'm really pleased to say that it actually worked out really well for us in one of the trials, and we're actually in the process of implementing relatedness to the site at this moment in time. Moving on to year 3, this was 2019. We really wanted to look at how we could challenge ourselves to be really interactive with our users. So we implemented a tool on our site called Usabilla. This allows users to submit direct feedback to us at any time that they want. What it's allowed us to do is look at the data and cluster it into unique customer feedback trends, which we've resolved 12 of so far, and we're investigating and prioritizing the rest. Some of the trends that came through almost immediately once we put Usabilla live was access representation, which is something that RA21 is trying to resolve. We also had things like login redirection issues that we weren't aware of, something that had crept in at deployment once we'd gone live. So we've now gone back, updated our testing, and made sure that that can't happen again. And we also managed to resolve some other trends around core share or mobile views, and also abstract replacement images, where we show an image of the article where an abstract isn't available. People were getting confused and thinking that was the article itself without actually viewing the whole thing. It's also allowed us to look at Net Promoter Score. Would people recommend our platform to other people? Now, this is a very new survey that I'm showing you. Our score in December was actually 42. But the thing that we care about the most is who's coming to our platform. Are we still catering to the same audience? Have our users changed? And also, when our users come to the platform, what task are they trying to complete? And are they completing it successfully? Are they having a good experience? So we're starting to use that data now to validate where we can improve elsewhere on the site. We also have the ability to break that down by country, which allows us to see if there's problems isolated with search in a given area or region, for example. We also were able to do an accessibility audit on our site, which we've passed, and we are now WCAG 2.0 compliant. And we were also the first website to score above 90% for our accessibility policy with Aspire on the site. So what have the results been for us so far from a business perspective? Well, we've seen an average year-on-year increase of 25% in content usage, that's content downloads. Our user registrations and sessions are up by 40%, including page views. And we've also seen a digital revenue growth of 10%. And there's a couple of charts here showing, the top left is showing our combined usage growth over year-on-year, and the bottom right is showing year-to-date how we're performing against the previous year. So let's have a quick look at the future. So the next piece of work we've got coming up and how we're still trying to adapt to customer needs is by redesigning our content pages. And we set ourselves 4 objectives here: increase content usage, improve the online reading experience, enhance our HTML offering, and improve users' understanding of access. And we've tried to take this philosophy that first we must discard superfluous stuff before we can decide where we're going to put things. So to do this, we've engaged in a series of research, understanding font size, font selection, line length, how we can ensure accessibility of the HTML on the abstract landing page. We've gone into card sorting exercises with both internal and external users. And one of the really interesting things there was internal and external both shared the same top 3 tasks, which really shows how those personas work to translate user needs internally. We've then gone through various design and user testing phases, but I'd like to point out here as well, internal feedback always comes last for us because we want to build the platform for our users based on our users' need. thank you very much for listening to me, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Alex. Great presentation. So we have a question. It's around the large amount of data that you acquired from the global survey and the number of stats, and also the timeline for gathering that. So the question is really around your UX design approach, and were there any areas where you tried more sort of agile methods?
Yeah, so we're actually an agile team. We're set up as an agile team, so we're constantly looking at the data and iterating on it currently. Normally, actually, when we put a feature live, and we did one recently for the implementation of Counter 5, where we put a UI for downloading Counter 5 reports live, but we put Google tracking, and we also put a usability survey on the page, gathering feedback from our librarian community. And one thing that became very apparent to us very quickly was actually it wasn't serving their needs, so or not in the way in which they wanted it to, at least. So we very quickly adapted that interface and put out a new interface which better catered to the purposes of Counter 5 and how you run Counter 5 usage reports. Large pools of data, generally speaking, are challenging to deal with, and we get tens of thousands of responses, for example, on our NPS surveys. So we try to identify sort of data clusters and data trends where we can focus in on a particular issue and try to resolve that. There is also the issue of identifying themes which are not necessarily reflective of the majority and are more reflective of the few. And that also helps us identify how we should iterate development that we've put live. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I had a question following on from that.
Sure.
Just thinking about all that data, I mean, do you guys use AI at all to help analyze all that data?
So not at the moment. We are in the process of looking at tools that can help us do that. What we have done in the last year is we've set up a sort of customer experience team within our department, which is led by a customer experience manager and has a couple of people looking at data and trying to identify these trends and do market research to support what we're finding out from our users. So that's been a massive help in us being able to pull out some of these trends, some of these issues, and really try to tackle them head on.
Thank you, Alex. That concludes the questions, and I'd like to hand over now to Damien Stewart, who's Head of UX at Emerald.
Cheers, thank you.
Hi there, thanks very much for that. Just share my slides. Okay, so yeah, thanks very much, Jane. So I'm Damien Stewart, I'm Head of UX at Emerald Publishing. What I would like to do today, I'm going to take you through our UX journey into launching the new Emerald Insight platform. So in 2017, we identified that we needed to make a change. We didn't have control, speed, or flexibility of our platform, and we needed control, speed, and flexibility of our platform. We needed an open community platform that basically brought our users in contact with our research. It needed to have an amazing user experience with a very clean, crisp, contemporary UI. It needed to use intuitive technology. In 2018, we decided that we needed to do some end user engagement. We wanted to understand the needs and expectations of a new platform of our core audience. The initial research we undertook with 20 institutions across 4 different regions, the UK, US, Malaysia, and China. And following on from the research, we recruited 12 test partners based in the 4 regions. With this group, we undertook usability testing of the wireframes and prototypes that we created. And this really gave us an opportunity to get a much wider kind of global opinion on what the new platform needed to offer to our user base. We wanted to create a continuous feedback loop. So we wanted to create something based according to users' needs. We wanted to ship that to the users. We wanted to obtain their feedback, and we wanted to improve. In October 2018, we launched our private beta to 50 customers. This was a really crucial kind of stage for the future development of the platform, because it gave us a real opportunity to understand whether we were on the right path and also obtain feedback. We kept our users up to date on a regular basis via regular updates. The emails basically outlined the changes that we'd made to the platform and encouraged them to go to the platform and basically provide us with any feedback or observations that they had. In March 2018, we entered our public beta stage. This then gave us a perfect opportunity to obtain more feedback and opened up the channels of communication again with a much kind of wider base. So we look for feedback via online, social, and in person. To Emerald's library advisory network, which we have 164 members, we created a discussion forum for them. So to encourage them to come together and have discussions about the developments that we'd done on the new platform and any changes or modifications they wanted to make. And this feed fed directly back into our continuous feedback loop. And we took this information and made modifications to the platform accordingly. In July 2019, we launched a new platform. And obviously, we were very, very pleased with what we'd achieved at that moment in time. What I'd like to do now is I'd just like to take you through the key features of the platform. So we wanted the new platform to be very bold and very confident and very striking. So we developed the home page to have rotating, large, bold imagery that complemented our research. We brought the search function front and center, so it was very clear to the user when they first entered into the system to carry out an initial search. When a search result was returned, we wanted the search results to be card-based, so everything was encapsulated in one place. It was clear what the return result was. It gave a brief overview of what the result was and also gave them access to the available content. They had the ability to expand a summary section, which provided them with more details and access to the abstract, and also provided with more details and access to keywords. We also provided them with information about if the content was available to them and also the different formats the content was available in. We also gave them the ability to filter the actual results. So again, whether they just show me content that I've got access to or open access content, obviously filtering by year and content type. When the user moves into an article page, it's very, very cleanly laid out. The structure is very simple and using a lot of white space. There's a simple in-page navigation, which enables the user to move seamlessly between the sections of the article or the various content types. And at the top of the screen, there's also the ability to download the content in PDF format or the appropriate format. Accessibility is a major thing that we're very keen on at Emerald, and we've created an accessibility page on our site, which has got our accessibility roadmap. the accessibility roadmap obviously outlines the stage where we're at with reaching WCAG 2.1. We've also created a VPAT document, which is available to our North America users. We've also developed relationships with accessibility librarians in different institutions, including Leeds Beckett, Huddersfield, and California State Universities. We release to the new platform every 2 weeks, and all features that I've shown you today have been validated by end user engagement. The launch was only the beginning. Obviously, we understand that continuous development and end user engagement is key to the success of any platform, and that's something that we're very proud of. A key part of the Create section is our user experience team and the process that we follow. We have our own user experience team and who have got a combined experience of over 27 years. We follow a create, test and refine model. So we follow an agile development process. We have a tribe that's split into 3 squads. We undertake sprints where we do whiteboard activities, sketching at the whiteboards, generating initial prototypes and wireframes. We then develop test scripts and go out and test with our users on a regular basis. And we obviously, from the testing, we then extract the top 5 must-haves, which we then take into the next sprint. And we work with the full team, including dev and obviously project managers, to ensure that the most appropriate things are implemented from each test. Also, following on from the testing aspect, is we do a lot of face-to-face kind of visits to local universities, and we've got very, very strong relationships with local librarians. We also do a lot of testing with Try My UI, which enables us to have very, very quick turnaround of results, and it's been proved to be very, very beneficial to the development of the system. We also have feedback which is readily available, and we obtain daily from the website itself, where users can share any feedback, anything that they find on the platform where they feel as though it would be beneficial for the team to be aware of. Obviously, we understand that, you know, it's a continuous journey, and we want to evolve the platform with the customers at the forefront, helping us to develop the platform in the right way to meet their needs and expectations moving forward. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, Damien. Great presentation. And we do have some questions. So the first question is, how involved was your platform vendor in the platform redesign? And can you share any insights on that journey, and also who your platform host is?
So we host the platform. So we obviously, with regard to our vendor, we work very closely with them. It's very much a team effort. You know, it's very much a kind of, we really embrace kind of collaboration and working very, very closely with all of our partners, really.
Thank you. Second question. So where did your renewed focus on the user come from? What was the catalyst behind it? And when you started your end user research, were there any surprises or disappointments?
So our renewed focus, really, I think, obviously, coming from a strong kind of UX background, obviously a user-centered design approach is obviously something that I think we'll all, as a company, we know the importance of it, because ultimately, having the user at the center of all your design decisions, you're ensuring that you're building something that will meet genuine kind of end user need. So I think as a company, we've understood the importance of that, and hence why Emerald kind of investing in their own UX team and understanding that the importance of regular interactions with librarians, and also the just the general engagement with end users is key to the success of any platform, I would say. And sorry, like I can't remember the second part.
Yeah, sorry, I should have asked this in 2 questions. Were there any surprises or disappointments when you first started the end user research?
So I think there's always I think just the general premise of going out and asking users questions is there's always kind of things that surprise you, definitely, and also sometimes things don't work exactly as you would expect. But I think what we try to do is just ensure that we create something quickly and then test it as quickly as we can to make sure that so if you are going to fail, you just fail fast, and then we can kind of move on and learn from that interaction, and then ultimately ensure it benefits the overall system.
Thank you. And final question, can you tell us a little more about your future plans for continuing to improve the user experience of your platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the kind of discoverability of content is a key part for us. It's definitely one of our key focuses. And also our development of browse kind of comes into that as well. Accessibility, as I touched on before, is obviously something that we're really striving for. We want the AA WCAG 2.1 on the site. That's something that we're really pushing for. And we're also using user behavior analytics as well. So we're going to, ultimately that will give us further insights above and beyond all the other activities that we undertake. Does that answer the question?
There's 2 more questions actually. I'll go to this one first. So someone's saying she doesn't think the catalyst question was answered, and she's wondering if the UX team was a new addition, perhaps driven by new leadership.
So I think it was because we were moving away from having one particular vendor. So we were ultimately trying to, sorry, the lights have gone out for some reason. So we were moving away from having, we wanted to take control of of the platform. So we brought, we moved away from having a vendor, and we moved to taking control of the platform for ourselves. So I suppose the investment in the UX team was part of that, really, because Emerald understand that we needed a fully kind of joined up team, really, to be able to build a successful platform. So I think that was that. Sorry, I think the question was so long, I probably missed that bit. Does that answer the question now?
Yes, the person asking the question says, yes, that's great.
Okay.
And there is another question. If users are at the center of everything you do, is that primarily librarian users or end users? And there is another question that they've asked, but I'll wait for you to answer that one first.
So we're quite fortunate where we're based geographically, because we have a number of major universities on our doorstep. So we've got a great relationship with a number of librarians at the various institutions, but as a result of that, we've also got a large pool of students that we can also kind of engage with. So it's very much a broad brush of people that we engage with on a regular basis. Also, with regards to, I mentioned Try My UI as well. We've found that to be very useful, because it can be very targeted in the people that you actually select that you want the test to go to. And we've found that to be, being very specific down to, a particular person in a particular role. So that's been quite useful as well.
And a follow-on question from the same person was, do you find their requirements and responses are broadly aligned, or are they different?
I think there are differences, absolutely, but broadly they are quite similar as well. So I think because of the platform, we're trying to make something that's you know, easy to use, very simple, and a very clean kind of user experience. So I think broadly the requirements are quite similar, really, because the journey is relatively the same across the different groups. Is that
fantastic?
Okay?
Yeah. So this concludes the main part of the webinar. Thank you to all of our speakers, and I'm really impressed that all three of you are working towards the latest accessibility standards. That's really great news, and we hope that other publishers are doing that as well. So I'll just share my...
I think I need to stop sharing first, I'll turn then, yeah.
Yes. So... there we go. So yes, so thank you to all our speakers, and if I could just say thank you as well to everyone that's joined the webinar today. If you could kindly complete our 5-minute feedback survey, the link will be sent out with the recording after the webinar. And you can find out who the winner of our award is at our Access Lab conference. So please do book on and have a look at what the conference program has in store. We've got lots of really fantastic sessions, including many library case studies, and we also have quite a few sessions on the topic of privacy and personalization. And the highlight of the conference is our panel debate on privacy versus personalization. So I know that that's a hot topic that's of interest to quite a few publishers and libraries at the moment. So please do have a look at the programme and book a ticket. The conference is on the 19th of March in London. Also, just to draw your attention to a couple of resources that we have on UX and UX recommendations. So our UX designer, V. Rogacheva, has written a blog, and she also presented a webinar in January. So please do have a listen of that recording, which can be found from our YouTube site. And I just want to also just share this with you as well. So this is the RA21 recommended practices that I mentioned earlier. So there's a link to those. I really recommend that you have a look at the recommendations and see how you can start implementing those recommendations on your publisher sites. And as I mentioned, when we run the award again next year, that will be one of the criteria we will be looking at. So I just want to say again, thank you all for attending the webinar, and we'll be in touch soon with all the recording links, the survey links, and all the resource links as well. And also again, thank you very much to all of our speakers. They did a brilliant job, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.